My area of concentration is on the business process improvement and helping organizations, especially information technology organizations. So I work a lot with IT, people, and I help do the alignment of IT and the business. And one of the areas that I found when you're doing business process improvement is the area of effective, how do you deal with the communication with other people? And I think that's one of the reasons why Dr. Rich has been very influential in the type of work that I do, because everything that he talks about has to do with the laws of communication and how do you communicate with other people. And regardless of what country I've been to, I found that the challenges that people have are the same, no matter if they're Muslim, if they're Catholic, if they, whatever. It really doesn't matter. And so one of the things that I've been trying to do is trying to find out what is a good way to analyze and to try to develop an effective way of communicating with different types of people. So one of the things that I have found that I came across, and maybe you have heard of this, is something called social styles. Has anybody ever heard of that? No? All right, so something new. That's great. So let me write that down, and unfortunately, I'm going blind here, and I can't even write something without putting my glasses on and seeing what it is that I'm writing. Social, this one is dead, so we'll go with this one. Social styles. So when you get back to your computers, although some of you seem to have your computers here, you can Google it, you can get some information on this. But what it is, it's an assessment, okay? So it's a communication style type of an assessment. It's one of those psychometrics, you guys know about, like the Myers-Briggs, right? It tells you if you're introverted or extroverted, and there's like the DISC, right? So I'm certified in DISC as well. So there's DISC, and there's other things like that. So, but this one is really effective when you're dealing with how do you effectively talk and communicate with somebody. And it's about understanding your preferred method as well as understanding the way that other people like to be communicated with. And so like the DISC, okay, when you do the test, it provides you with 4 areas, okay? And so what happens is this, and let me just put these arrows over here so that you can see what it is that we're talking about here. So when you take the test, there's an assessment and you answer some questions, and what happens is that then based on the value that you get from that assessment, it'll put you somewhere on this line and it'll put you somewhere on this line. So when you're up and down, okay, what that means is that as you go up, it means that you're more of a task-oriented person, okay? So you know those type of people, right? They just want to get the task done. They just want to get the job done, right? All they want to do is get the end results, all right? As you go down, then you become more people-oriented, all right? And so we know those people as well. So those are the people that when you go into their offices, you talk to them and so how's the family, how's the weekend, how are things going, and they want to talk about what's going on in their personal lives because they're more interested in the people aspects of it. If you try to do that with people that are up here that are task-oriented and you go into their offices and you say, so how's your weekend? They're like, I don't want to talk about that. Where's the project, and what's been going on, right? And there's obviously a level in between, right? Some people are more, okay, here, or can be over here, or can be over here. So when you do that assessment, you get a value here. On this end, what you get is that as you go more this way, you get somebody that's going to ask. And I'll explain what that means, but this is somebody that's going to ask you a lot of types of questions. And then as you go over to this side, can you guess what's over here? What is the opposite of asking? Is when they tell you. Okay? So that's really interesting as well, because don't we know people that ask you a lot of questions? What's this? What's that? What's this? Always asking a lot. And then we have people that are on this end that just tell you stuff, even though it may be something that you don't want to hear. but they immediately want to tell you what their opinion is without you having to ask, right? In fact, some people, you can't shut them up because they're telling you, right? And there's some people that ask you, but they're not actually, you try to tell them, something, but they're more into the asking mode. And again, there's an area in between here when you do the assessment. So when you do that, what the people over at Social Styles is that they said, okay, now you can fit into one of these 4 areas here. This one, you're analytical. In this area, you are a driver. In this section, you're amiable. And in this section, you are expressive. Okay? So what does that mean? Well, for one thing, it's important for you to know where you are. Okay? Now, I'm very much an analytical person. I have a bachelor's in engineering. I used to work with computers and do software, and I pretty much like to analyze things. And usually, especially when I deal with IT people, information technology people, they're more on the analytical side, right? Because that's why they got into that business. They just want to know the facts and everything else. Now, also sometimes when you're analytical, it might mean, not always, that you're a bit introverted. And I am also an introvert. And in fact, I am an extreme introvert. So when you do the test for introvert, here's the beginning part where I'm like beyond that. And in fact, being an extrovert or doing things like this, speaking in public, is very outside of my comfort zone, although I've learned how to survive and how to live in an extroverted world. In fact, people that know me, and they say, you go around the world and you're talking in front of people, that's not you. Because when I'm home, I'm like, don't talk to me. I just want to be on my computer. I just want to read. That's me. And then they see that I do this. And in fact, what's going to happen is that when I get on the airplane later this afternoon, I'm probably going to fall asleep because I get exhausted doing this, even though it's fun and I enjoy it. And people say, well, you seem so extroverted. You're out there, you're talking, and you're animated. And I go, yeah, but that's not how I normally work. And so it's very important that I know where I am in this quadrant. In fact, I'm a bit analytical / amiable. But what happens is that when you start looking at the people that fit into these categories, an analytical person, the way that I can easily summarize them is that they think in bullet points. Right? So when you're communicating with your customers, and I guess that's one of the topics here, right, is how do you deal with your customers, is that it's important to know is that when you're relating to them, do you want to speak to them in bullet points? Because they're analytical, and all they want to know is, give me the facts, right? They want facts. Right? In fact, they want accuracy, right? They want numbers. They're the people that say, how much money did we make, or what is your rate of return, and this and that, right? And if you don't give them that, what are they going to do? They're going to ask you for it, and they're going to ask you for it until they get the right answer. And in fact, they're going to get frustrated because they're looking for the facts, they're thinking in like bullet points, and you're not giving it to them, they're not going to be happy with you. As a matter of fact, when you're doing things like emails, with somebody who is analytical, what you want to do is you want to put your important things at the beginning and put it in bullet points. This is what I need from you. Mark, this is what I'm looking for. Bam, 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 bam. Perfect. But then if you write a whole story and blah, 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 and then at the end you write, oh, and by the way, can you do this? Most of the time they won't even read that far down, right? And it was really interesting too is that my son, who is 21, he's introvert as well. He's very introverted, almost as much as I am. And it's funny because when we used to have people coming over to the house, he and I would be upstairs, up in the room, watching a movie, reading a book. Mark, Philippe, come downstairs. There's a party going on. It's like, oh, do we have to? So we'd go downstairs. It's like, hi, how are you? And it's my house. People coming to my house. It's like, hi, okay, thanks. Okay, so can I go now? And he and I would go back upstairs because that's the way we are. It's also very interesting is because he and I can drive for an hour and not talk, and we're having a great time. because we don't have to talk. I mean, it's kind of that's where we are. My daughter, on the other hand, is another story, and I'll tell you about her later. But when I would give him some chores to do around the house, I wrote it in a list format. And I said, this is what I want you to do. Boom, clean your room, clean the bathroom, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's perfect for him because he look at the list, he says, okay, I'm very analytical, I know what I'm supposed to do, these are the steps, bum, 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 and he would get it done, okay? Now let's look at the opposite side, and the opposite meaning this way. Somebody who's expressive, okay? Somebody who's expressive wants to tell a story, right? And they want, because they're very people-oriented, they want the people to be involved in the story, right? They want everybody to be happy. They want to get everybody involved. They're just very expressive people, which unfortunately sometimes frustrates somebody who is analytical. So my daughter, okay, so she's going to be 20 this year. She's the artist, she's the artistic. She's the singer. She loves makeup. She loves fashion. She's going to college for film, as opposed to my son, who's going more into like the finance, because he likes numbers. His idea of 1 + 1 always equals 2 is perfect. He likes to debit. He likes to credit. There's no gray area with him. With her, she's more expressive and more flamboyant, and she's more. I could ask him, how much money do you have in your bank account? And he could tell me to the penny. That's how the analytical she is. For her, it's like, well, I don't know. I got some money. How much do you have exactly? Oh, I don't know. I haven't checked. Totally opposite. And when she wants something, she tells a story. She wants to be very expressive. And so when I would give her the list of things to do around the house, she would look at the list and go, well, what's the story around this list? What's my motivation? And I go, what do you mean, what's your motivation? This is not like an acting class. Just I want you to clean, But for her, she wants a whole story woven around it, And so if you have any customers who are more expressive, and you start talking to them in an analytical way, they're going to want more, right? Because they don't get that bond. They don't get here you're very task-oriented, boom, 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 right? Over here, they want the story, they want the emotions around it, okay? So it's very important to know that distinction between the two. So my approach to each one of them is completely different. All right. So then you have on this side, you have somebody who is a driver. Okay? The goal of the driver is very simple, right? Get it done. They're going to drive things, okay? And they're going to tell you. In fact, the expressive also tells. Obviously, that's pretty obvious there, right? But the driver is also going to say, just tell you, I want you to get it done, okay? So all they're interested in to get it done, they want to get the end results, all right? And they're going to drive that because what? They're very task-oriented. Right? The amiable person is really interesting because the amiable person, they want to make everybody happy. Make everyone happy, right? They are afraid to make wrong decision, right? So if you ask them, so what do you think? And if you're amiable, they go, I don't know, so what do you think? And, whatever you want, and they don't want to make the wrong decision in the event that it's not going to make you happy. Because they're amiable. They want to make everybody happy. They're more concerned about the people portion of it and how it affects everybody else. So somebody who's a driver, who's interfacing with somebody who's amiable, you get that frustration as well, right? Because the driver is saying, what do you think we should do with this? Oh, I don't know, whatever you want to do. Well, I want your decision. I hired you to do this, right? Well, I don't know, I don't want to go with it. It's like, make a decision. Right or wrong or not, I still want to hear what you have to say, and I'll still make the decision because I'm the driver and I'm the one that's going to be driving this, but I want your input, right? And so there's a challenge there, right?
Now, how about when people fluctuate in between? Because there are times I'm a huge driver, and then there's other times I'm a big amiable.
Right. And it all depends. It's very situational, right? And so that's a great question. So what happens when you when like you flip? I am mostly over here, but I've learned to be expressive. In fact, there's a fifth. There's another type of a variable here, and it has to do with the flexibility as far as how well can you like adapt, right? And in fact, some people are driver at home and amiable. Sorry, driver at work and amiable at home. Right? In fact, at work, they're like, drive, and when they get home, they go, I don't care, whatever you want to do, right? They don't want to make a decision. And I find that for my students, that's what happens. They go, well, geez, at home, I'm this, but boy, at work, I have to fill in this role. And in fact, there are many times that, depending on the group that I'm with, I can be the driver, sure. If somebody wants me to make the decision and make it happen, sure, I can do that. I feel very, very comfortable being in this role. And I can also be in this role. It's like, hey, I don't really care what everybody else wants to do. The challenge is when you have everybody that's amiable, no decisions are being made because nobody wants to make that decision. So somebody has to step up and play in this role here. And the other challenge is when you have everybody who's analytical, that could be an interesting challenge as well. And this is what I find in the IT world, that everybody is analytical and nobody really cares about the feelings and emotions of everybody else. They just want to get the job done, right? And so the challenge is trying to be able to live or to be like adaptable to be in each one of the areas. So when you're dealing with communication with your clients, with the students, or with anybody else, I try to figure out where I am, of course, and where they are, and I adapt my communication method. So again, when I'm doing emails with the analytical, it's to the point, boom, 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 right? In fact, when you're doing presentations, let's say to a bunch of people, usually I'll have, let's say, like a PowerPoint, slide that just has the bullets. In fact, people that are analytical love PowerPoints because it's just right there and there. But then I also have a Word document with the actual text and some more information for the people who want to read a little bit more, right? And in fact, if you're analytical and you put stuff in this mode, be ready to go into more expressive mode, right? To be able to talk more and to get more in depth for those people that are expressive, right? And and there's a lot more to this. I mean, I just kind of putting it all down here, kind of the quick points here. But based on this, okay, do you want to share perhaps where you think you are? Who's analytical? Who's a driver? What do you think? I know you haven't taken the real test, but
I'm like you. I'm also a disc facilitator.
Okay. And this follows a lot of bit of the disc, which is
I did this presentation this morning.
Okay.
And I am definitely I'm a high C, so I'm highly analytical
Mm-hmm.
and very task oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out when I found that out and realized that being in my own business, it dawned on me that I had to emphasize my driver more.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I was going to close sales, I need to be a driver. But if I want people to like me, to do business with me when I'm doing networking, I had to work on that expressive piece because my expressive is incredibly introverted. Because I love what you said, you and your son driving, and I can be in the car with somebody for an hour also and think I'm having a great time if we don't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But being with somebody who talks the whole time, I can be engaged, but I go home and sleep.
Sure. Exactly. So you're right. Exactly. They wear you out.
I still love them, but it just still wears me out.
So my daughter is very expressive, like I mentioned, and I spend the day with her, and I'm exhausted. I took my daughter to New York for the first time. She was about 17. So we go to Times Square. She loves it, right? The people, the lights. She goes, let's go to go see like a show, right? So we went to the show. The show ended maybe at 9 o'clock. So I'm like, okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go back to the apartment. Let's go back to sleep. She's like, we're in Times Square. We can't go home now. It's tough to do. And I'm like, oh, here we go, right? So we had to stay out and do the lights or whatever else. And so we're out till wee hours of like the morning because that's what she likes to do. She likes that energy, right? And she wants to talk. She wants to do this and that. She wants to see everything. Took my son last year, the year before, I think it was last year, to Washington. Well, I didn't take him. I was there and I flew him out, right? He wanted to go see lots of different, sites and everything else. So it was in February, so it was a bit on the cold side. But we did one of those bus tours. So it started maybe at 9 in the morning and ended at about 5 o'clock, right? So at 5 o'clock we got to see everything, you know, the White House and the Washington and like Jefferson and everything else, right? All that stuff. And at the end, the bus took us back to our hotel. And I knew this going in, but I said, so would you like to go out to a bar? Because he's 21 now, right? So he can drink. I say, hey, let's go have a couple of beers here. No, let's stay at the hotel. Let's get a pizza and let's watch a movie. I was like, perfect. Thank you. You know, because I knew that's what he was going to do. You know, and it's totally different. So when I go out with her, I got to be ready. I got to have the energy. I have to take a nap in the afternoon because she's going to wear me out because she's want to go. He, on the other hand, I know that at that time, you know, it's going to end. In fact, last year I was in San Diego doing a workshop. And one day she came over after the workshop to hang out with me because they both live in San Diego. And then the next night, he was going to come down. And I like to do things with them separately because then I can spend time with them because they like different things. And with him, it was so interesting because I think I saw her first. And so we went out for some sushi. And I still had to teach the next day, and I was like, well, you know, I need to get back. It's, you know, I got to get, you know, ready. She's like, well, it's early. Let's work downtown San Diego and this and that, right? And I told my students this story the next day, and I said, well, this evening my son's going to come over. I said, I bet you we're going to go have dinner, and by 7 o'clock he's going to want to leave. And lo and behold, we went out. We had a couple of beers. We had a burger. We walked back to my hotel. He goes, okay, well, you know, it's time for me to go home. 7:30 on the dot. I knew it. I called it, you know. And so it's really interesting that if you know that about your kids, if you know that about your clients, you know that about your customers, you know that about your significant other, this really helps. Because my significant other now, I mean, we didn't do this type of study, but she knows that when I come back from a trip, you know, I need my time to detox, right? And I need my time to unwind. And when she's presenting things to me, she has learned, I mean, I've actually told her, this is how I like things. You know, if you send me an email, tell me the important stuff at the beginning and put it in bullet points because that's how I see it. If you go blah, 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 oh, and by the way, can you bring home, you know, milk? I haven't even seen that yet. Especially if it's on my phone and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I'm scrolling and I don't really reach the end, right? And so with your customers, it's kind of the same thing. You know how you're going to present, because if you can adapt your way of communicating with them to the style that they're used to, that they can accept things, then they're going to be more open. Right? And I found that just really helps. And the challenge, of course, when you're doing something like this is that some of you are going to be analytical, some of you are going to be, you know, driver, and so you're going to have to adapt the way that you present in front of the, you know, people. So we know that you're analytical. Anybody else want to share? And what you think? I know we said we haven't done a scientific one.
I'm a huge people drainer.
Okay.
So I'm expressive.
Okay.
I'm people pleaser, people drainer.
Okay. So you're a little bit, maybe sometimes you feel a little bit of, you know, both, right?
Absolutely. I can be a driver if I have to get something done.
Right.
I'm pretty darn good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my personality is more
Right.
the bottom half.
And so how do you like people to communicate with you?
In story.
In story, there you go, see? So when I tell the story about my kids, blah, 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 that really resonates with you. Somebody else is going, okay, just give me the bottom line. What does it really mean? You know, what do I need to do? Right? Very interesting. What about you? Anybody else want to share?
Well, I'm
Yes.
like Amiable and Expressive too.
Mhm.
The way I like my emails is analytical.
Interesting.
And I want to get it done because I want to go out and please more people. So I want it done.
Right.
So I don't have to sit for
So it's a way of getting the stuff done. So you want to be analytical to analyze the data, and you're driven, but you also kind of live in this area as well,
Yeah.
right? In fact, most people probably are, and if you want to be a better rounded person, is that you kind of want to be all of these, right? You kind of want to be here. You know, if you're way up here where you're totally task oriented, you know, you're just business, and the people that, you know, the individuals that you deal with that are going to want to have more of a personal relationship, they're not going to be happy with you. They're going to say, my God, that person is a task driver. You know, they don't care anything about me. You know, and of course, if you're down over here, it means that you probably don't get the task done. And it's okay. I'm
When
sorry?
I write an email, I write it more amicable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I feel I have to explain it to them while I'm writing to them, and then I'll do the bullet points. I'll do
Right.
the paragraph and then the bullet point.
Interesting. Okay.
And then I have to ask them how to and then they end up with, get it done now.
Right, so you're probably more on the amiable, if you go maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, and then maybe 4, right? So you may have those sort of layers there. All right. Anybody else want to share? Where do you think you are? No? Okay. Well, you don't have to. I mean, if
You
you.
don't have to talk for long.
Oh, God, that's awesome.
So, I'm the quiet one, she's the talkative one.
Okay, so you're probably more expressive.
So,
You think?
I actually can see how I go into the four quadrants.
Okay, so you
At
probably.
different times, because I'm a high introvert,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time I speak on stage.
So you're like me as well, right?
So, yeah, I can totally resonate with what you're saying.
And you have a French accent
I have a French accent.
from
From France.
France. Okay. No, I thought maybe you were like from the.
From Paris.
No, from the Canadian side, which I know the French from Paris don't think that the French in Canada. So we're not going to go there, but okay. Je parle un peu français. Oui.
Oui, moi aussi.
Oui.
So I can see how I can go into all of them. And at some times I wish I would go a little more into the driver because I like to be in the other ones and I see how sometimes it affects my business
Sure,
to not
sure.
go into the task but privilege the people rather than the task.
No, absolutely, and I think that's one of the valuable things is that where you're weak in, or not weak. It's not really a weakness. It's really more of a deficiency, just an area that you need to focus more on, because if you want to go out and sell more, if you really want to get up there and do presentations, you have to be more expressive, because your audience will probably be more expressive as well. So you have to get up there and then talk. I wrote a book a long time ago. It was a technology book. It's a very thin book, right? I mean, it had everything I needed to say in this book. So my editor was like, well, write some more words. I'm like, I can't write any more words because I said what I was going to say, and I can't fluff it up anymore. What they wanted was those technical books, with the screenshots and 1,100 pages, and I'm like, that's just a bunch of, fluff. I don't need anything like that. Well, the book came out. It did very well because it was meant for system administrators. These are technical people who were very analytical, and all they wanted was, how do I do this? Boom, boom, boom. And that's what I told them. I don't need to go into the history of Windows and all this other fluff, which is what they wanted me to do. So they were like, hey, this is a great book, So you have to know the audience, right? Now, it didn't do well with the other people that wanted more of the fluff, but there's enough books out there to do that. So, and then you said that you're more of the quiet one?
No.
I am the quiet.
Oh, you're the quiet one. I'm sorry. You were the more.
Nobody would agree to
No,
that.
okay.
Say that.
Okay.
Nobody would agree.
But it's complicated too, because I was in hiding for so long, and I was the introvert for
Yeah.
14 years.
Right.
So, yeah,
And something brought it out. Yeah, I was the introvert as well, and I still am.
her fault.
So sometimes you have to be able to adapt to those situations, right? And so yes.
And I'm on the driver's side a lot. I can do the other ones as well, but I'm opposite from you in the sense that I'm an extrovert, and when I have to play the introverted role, it sucks the energy out of me because I have to learn to keep my mouth shut.
Right,
And
right, because you're more
sometimes I
of the
struggle.
telling, right? You're more
And
the,
so sometimes I burn off more energy by being an introvert when I have to play that role,
Right.
and that wears me out, much like when you have to be the extrovert.
Sure.
It taxes you differently.
right. And what's really interesting is that when you look at the introverted and extroverted and all that, this kind of plays a big role in that as well. But some of the things that I help some of my clients with is sometimes technology people are overlooked because they're quiet, and because they go to a meeting and they're not saying anything, and that may be misinterpreted as, oh, they're not engaged, or they don't really care what's going on. They're not. In fact, because they're being analytical, they are absorbing all that information. They will ask when they have a question or when they want some more, information to make the decision. But somebody else might think, oh, they don't really care, and they may be overlooked for assignments and for the promotion. There's a person, of course, who's a telling person who talks over everybody, who wants to say, has something to say, not necessarily worthwhile things to say, but they're always telling everybody else, oh yeah, let's go with that person because they talk a lot, but they got nothing to say, So I work with them on trying, especially the people that are analytical, and trying to be more on this side, especially more of the expressive side. And they say, look, if you can do it, I can. I mean, my perfect job was writing software code in front of the computer in a room with nobody there, and I'm just for hours and hours and hours, and I was extremely happy. And all of a sudden I said, well, you know what, I don't know if I want to do that in my 50s. I want to be out there, I want to do some other things, I want to see the rest of the world. So I forced myself to go teach, and to be in front of, groups. And the first time that I went out, I mean, I was at a podium, and I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can walk outside the podium a little bit. I was like, oh, no, I want to stay over here. This is comfortable. I feel really comfortable over here. Now when I do my workshops, I'm walking around, I'm doing this and that, but again, very, very exhausting. So anyway, so this is just something that I wanted to share with you because it was kind of a last minute, hey, would you like to talk about something? So I figured this is probably the easiest thing to, talk about, to kind of give you another perspective. There's a disc, again, that kind of has the same things here. But again, if you want to tie it into the customers, understand your style, like you said, and knowing where their style is and how to communicate with them and how to engage them and to engage them with your services or with your products. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks.